Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well, especially during this crazy time. I've just come back from training camp with the team and it really brought up some interesting conversations. And one of them was along the notion of our path and how do we stay on our path and how do we know what is the right path. And so, thinking about it, all of our paths are going to have bends in the road. Very rarely is anybody going to have a straight linear path to follow. We're going to take sharp lefts, going to go right. Some of us are going to circle back to the same place a couple times and, go in a roundabout and then veer either left or right. And that's fine. And it's necessary and it's going to happen. But what I would say is looking over your shoulder will never propel you forward. And so my message really during this talk is just about being secure in your path, almost putting blinders on and just doing you, do it your way and follow your own path without worrying about what other people are doing. So one of the biggest pieces of advice I have is, you know what your end result wants to be, needs to be, or what you want it to be. And obviously no one's got a straight line to that end result, but find somebody who already is where you want to be and seek guidance from them. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Their end result may not be the same as yours. So I get approached every once in a while for somebody who kind of wants to pick my brain or wants me to be like a mentor, and that is absolutely flattering. So in the process of asking them questions and what their goals are, a lot of times we figure out it's not the same as mine were. So, for example, the last person that approached me in our sort of conversation or intake, we realized that that person's end result was to own a clinic and eventually own a bunch of clinics so that they'd be able to travel and the clinics would run themselves. I will tell you, I would probably be the least helpful person in that instance. I purposely picked my path as to not have any overhead. It was not the way I was going to make my passive income. So in terms of steering them down the correct road or around the path in their goals, I was not a good fit. So find somebody who is where you want to be. So I was fortunate enough within a year out of leaving school that I stumbled upon somebody who is now my mentor. And the attraction was, not only was she considered a hustler in the field, she was actually one of the originals that her and her colleagues got us registered. Before that, we were known as masseuses and masseurs. She was involved in the education part of therapy. She had also been a physio back in the day. She was doing education. She was guest speaking. She had investments on the side. That is who I wanted to emulate. So that's who I chose as a mentor. And 20-something years later, we still get together for a meal at least once a month. We're constantly in contact. So find somebody who is where you want to be. The other really important thing, and it's not an easy thing, but you have to figure out what your meaning of success is. And I think just as important, which is where I think most people fail in this, is how are you going to measure that success? You know what you want the end result to be, but what are the check marks, boxes you can check off to actually get to that end result? So, is it monetary? Do you want to make a certain amount? And let's be honest, you have to be honest with yourself in this regard. Wanting to make a certain amount of money is not a bad thing. Is that your main thing? Then go with it. Figure out how you check off those boxes. There's nothing wrong with that. People, for whatever reason, don't like to talk about, they just want to make a certain amount of money. There probably is other aspects to it, but be honest with yourself. For me, coming out of school, my biggest thing was I wanted the respect. I wanted to be an effective therapist. I wanted to be appreciated. And I wanted to be known as somebody who worked hard. And through those things, for me, the financial rewards would follow. But that was how I considered myself to be successful. So I graduated. I've just written my board exams, but I don't yet have my results. But I put together a resume and I send it out just to see what kind of interest it would garner. So I know if I had, once I've graduated and got my results, if I have to make any changes. So I end up getting a call for an interview at a downtown hotel. So I go into the interview and we're talking about compensation, and the owner tells me that they supply everything. The clients, the sheets, that you just got to come in with your uniform and you're done. And it's a 50-50 split. She then mentions that about 70 to 80% of the clientele actually work and live in the area, which actually shocked me because it's a big downtown hotel. But she mentioned or showed me that they are connected by the path downtown. So they get all of the banks, all the big investment bankers, the TSX, all the big law firms, they all have access to that spa and often come in during the day. So there was a chance to build up a real clientele. And then your schedule will be filled with hotel guests. They have some of the biggest conventions in the world, so that you were going to be busy and you made 50% of the time you were working. And so coming out of school, this is what, 1999? Great. But something didn't sit well with me. That meant, because I wanted to be rewarded for working hard and being appreciated and building up a clientele, didn't sit well. So knowing that everybody else there that decided to do nothing would make the same, and we would all, in essence, have very full schedules, and that's what it sounded like. So in my head, and having a marketing and public relations corporation, I knew I wanted to ask for more, but I had to give them a reason to give me more. So I came up with, spur of the moment, that if I could maintain a 70% repeat ratio, because she said 70-80% actually work and live in the area, that I would like an extra 10%. And I said it very bluntly. And she looked at me and I realized, okay, gonna have to explain this one now. And I said to her, my reasoning was, if I can maintain 70 to 80% of my clientele that live or work in the area, that means you're not having to spend as much money on advertising on me, because I'm having the people come back. And what that means for you is that money you spend on advertising, you could now dole out, get another therapist and make 50% off them, and they can get the overflow, because within time, I'm going to have my own clientele that doesn't need any more maintenance. I can run that clientele on my own, and you can funnel more advertising dollars to another therapist. So she was like, great, let's see if you can do it. And I was in contact with her last, probably about 5 to 7 years ago. It's been a while, but even at that point, at that time, she said to me, Danielle, no one has ever come to me with any other kind of negotiation. She said they've all said, I'd like another 5 or 10%, but they had no way of compensating me for giving them that percentage. So again, for me, the measure of success was having people come back to me, which ended up, once I left there and started my own mobile practice, you know, I had already been in that practice of trying to get people to come back. And so, which is what I credit to me having to be able to maintain my clientele that I have for over 20 years. Another thing that I think is vital to following your own path, and, you know, I have mentioned this a couple times and people, you know, don't always agree, but don't chase the letters behind your name. You know, don't take courses just because they're sexy at the time. Take courses that are actually going to benefit your clients that you're working with. Just taking these courses just because and not really understanding them or not being able to use them doesn't make you a better therapist. You need to be effective, and whatever the client population that you're working with at the time needs, why wouldn't you do that? But think outside the box. They don't have to be the traditional courses that you get in a you know, online or what's traditionally offered, because I look at it as everybody else is doing those courses, right? Every other therapist is doing those courses, and they are a great adjunct to your toolbox, absolutely. But follow your path. Do you. Think outside the box. So I'll give you an example. I had a client I'd had for about, I don't know, maybe at the time, 8 to 10 years. He was a medical professional, very type A, so always had a lot of things he was doing. He was either on top of his crazy schedule, dragon boating or rock climbing, or just these extreme things that I didn't usually do. But it wasn't until he started boxing that I was stumped. I was seeing him weekly, And he had these shoulder issues, back and neck issues I'd never seen before. And I'd worked with athletes and palliative care, you name it. I had done it and never seen these kind of injuries before or issues. And I realized looking back, I didn't understand the mechanism of injury at the time. So what did I do? I started boxing. And that was the best course I could have taken. Not traditional, but it was the best course, because then I finally understood the mechanism of injury, finally understood how I could treat it, because it opened up to me what was actually happening. Now, and I became a much more effective therapist for him during that time. Now, had that not been all I needed it to be, I then would have gone and taken the traditional, shoulder courses or back and neck courses. Absolutely. But that's what I needed at the time. So don't be afraid. Think outside the box. I'll tell you, in all my time of working with professional athletes, palliative care, HIV, on movie sets, I've been in the delivery room with a client. No one's ever asked me about my credentials or the letters behind my name. So follow your path wherever that takes you. So that all being said, I think, believe it or not, Theodore Roosevelt really summed up everything I've been trying to say. And he said, comparison is the thief of joy. So just take a moment. Comparison is the thief of joy. Stop looking over your shoulder to see what other people are doing. If it brings you happiness and it's what you want to do, do you. Do it your way. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. We've all got a different path to take. We've got bends in the roads, we got sharp lefts, we got roundabouts, we got circling back. You know what? We all got our own journey to get where we're going to go. Somebody may end up where you are, but their journey was totally different, and that's okay. So, guys, buckle up and enjoy the ride. Thank you.